So I've just finished Red Alert 2 then, and I thought I'd make a video summing up my thoughts overall. The first thing I want to say is thank you to everyone who's watched along, and especially those people who've been leaving me helpful comments. It has really changed the way the game has been for me, for the better, and I've learned so much more from reading those comments and taking your feedback on board than I ever would have in just one or multiple playthroughs. The one that sticks out the most to me, people complained a lot about me moving the cursor to the edge of the screen just to scroll around the map. And they were telling me to use, the right trigger. And I was like, yeah, that's just not going to happen. Like, you're asking me to overcome several decades of just muscle memory in the way I play. I think it took one level for me to force myself to do that. And I was like, oh my god, this is the future. This is clearly vastly superior. And I don't know if that came across, but like in every subsequent episode, that's pretty much the only way I was traversing the map, was using right trigger. But there was so much more than that as well. Really good kind of strategy and tactical feedback that I tried to take advantage of. Some things people just wanted me to show off, whether it was better or worse, who is to say, but yeah, I was quite happy to kind of incorporate some more novel strategies as well at times. But let's talk about the actual game itself. Somebody asked me, I think it was Aptagius, about halfway through my Let's Play, what was I thinking of Red Alert 2 overall, how was I enjoying it? And I had a fairly long answer to that, which I'll kind of restate here for those of you who didn't see that comment. I would say that objectively it is the best installment in the franchise, at least up until the point of release. Looking at the classic, Tiberian Dawn Red Alert, then the second generation Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2. It's just got so many more quality of life improvements. It's really an evolution, and you can see that of those earlier games, taking what works, making improvements, and it really came across that I was playing something that felt much more modern. I think Tiberian Sun visually has aged very well, and I kind of maintain that position on all kind of late 90s sprite-based graphics. I think they look much, much better than, say, early 3D graphics a la CNC Generals, which I really don't think looks very good. Red Alert 2 had that visual flair, but unlike Tiberian Sun, which felt quite dated in some ways, Red Alert 2 was much more of a modern feeling game. Everything was much more responsive. The roles of the individual units on the battlefield were really well defined, and it was there was a lot of nice kind of visual and audio cues that let you know what was happening. And in terms of gameplay, it was very enjoyable. And I'd say that while I was actually playing the game, I was having a great time, like having a blast. It did not disappoint at all. It surpassed my expectations, definitely. I think I wasn't expecting it to be bad by any means, but I've got no nostalgia for it, having never played it before. It's always, difficult to tell, is this game going to hold up? Because I freely admit to my bias when it comes to the older Command & Conquer games. It's difficult to even, recommend them to people unless you explain like what it is you're getting in for. Expect that mid-90s RTS feel where things are more puzzle than they are kind of actual tactics and strategy. So yeah, to say again, Red Alert 2, while I was playing it, I thought was great. Unfortunately, what didn't work for me was the overall vibe of the game and the story as well. I didn't find it very engrossing. And I tried to contrasting it to Red Alert 1, I guess it's on par with that, because I've never found the Red Alert franchise. That's the secondary one to me. Tiberium is where the heart of the story is at. It's just a more interesting world. And yeah, it's got the cheese. So does Red Alert 2, you can't separate that. In terms of the story, one of the campaigns was clearly, to me at least, much stronger than the other, and that was the Soviet campaign. I think when you're playing as the Allies, the only kind of side of the Soviets you see is Romanov, who's kind of like this buffoonish character, someone to laugh at more than kind of fear, and the setup of just, it's another Soviet invasion of America, it's played out so many times, both before Red Alert 2 and even more since its release. So it's difficult to get engaged in that when there's just not much originality to it in the way it's portrayed. The Soviet side, though, had a lot more going on. The kind of internal squabbling between Vladimir, Romanov, Yuri, and yourself as well. I thought there was much more to kind of get invested in there. What's the name of the character? No, not the character, the actor. Udo Kier, is it, who plays Yuri? He just gives a fantastic performance. I laughed at so many of his lines. He's really sinister, and you feel genuinely like he is a dangerous character, and not so absurd that he's, you just can't accept the threat that he's supposed to pose, a la kind of Romanov. Vladimir as well, he was very much over the top, but it was fun to laugh at as kind of like the opposite of your own kind of Soviet commander that you're playing as. Both him and Romanov, they both kind of fit into that ridiculous, over-the-top kind of Soviet stereotype. Both of them showing kind of various degrees of incompetence. But Yuri was very much more in control and, as I say, more dangerous. I think the standout character for me that came out of nowhere was Lieutenant Sophia. I think I briefly mentioned this in a comment on one of my videos. She's the best lieutenant character that I can think of in the entire franchise, Tiberian and Red Alert. Like, there isn't really that role in the original generation of games. Looking at Tiberian's son, you've got on the GDI side Chandra and Blink, which are pretty much just not characters at all. Nobody can even remember their names unless you're a mega fan like me. And then on the Nod side, you've got much stronger Oksana Christos. She's actually got a personality. But though she's certainly not a bad character, I didn't engage with her the same way I did Sophia. Looking at the Red Alert 2, what's her name? I think she's just called Lieutenant Ava. She was ridiculous, and it kind of fit just an era of 90s gaming. Her character, especially the whole her in the dress at the end of the game, that's just like better left that part of gaming history behind. But then Sophia didn't get that treatment at all. She was really competent at her job. She was very loyal to you. She was on the ball. She saw what was happening with Yuri and had your back. And she had just great lines as well. One that sticks with me is those Allied spies will soon see that the only thing they can infiltrate is the inside of our dog's stomach. And there were other great lines like that throughout. And I thought she was, even looking further into the franchise like Tiberian Wars, there's a couple, I couldn't tell you their names, it's been too long, but there's a couple kind of GDI lieutenants, two of them that kind of work with you throughout that campaign. And they're fine, they do the job within the kind of story structure, but none of them have as strong personalities as Sophia had. And I couldn't even tell you who the Nod character, AJ, that's his name, or Ajax, I can't remember, the guy from Lost. He's got more of a character. I guess, that's true of all the games. I'm getting off topic here, but the Nod characters are more developed than the GDI ones. So yeah, Sophia, standout character of the game for me. Unfortunately, like I say, it didn't make up for just the lacking of personal investment in the story. So while I was enjoying the game while I was playing it, I didn't really feel a big draw to boot up the game when I was sitting on the PC doing anything else. Like if I had free time, I could play some Red Alert 2. Okay. It was more kind of a, hey, let's get through this at a reasonable pace, rather than I can't wait to see what's next. So yeah, going back to the gameplay, fantastic. The design of the levels was very good. But just, yeah, I can't say subjectively, objectively the best, subjectively not a favourite of mine. It probably, definitely ranks above the first generation of games. I went back, somebody recommended to me like a mod of that kind of first gen of games, and I just couldn't see myself going back to it now. It's kind of like I've done hundreds of levels of Tiberian Dawn and Red Alert 1, and having played the more modern ones now, even though they're 20 odd years old, it's too far gone. I can't go back anymore. So yeah, Red Alert 2, better than both of those. Probably, no, it definitely is better than Renegade as well. Renegade was a little bit of a disappointment for me. Tiberian Sun, biased opinion, subjectively, it is probably still my favorite. And I'm going to have to play Tiberian Wars again before I can place it in comparison to Red Alert 2, because I've always said before playing Red Alert 2 that Tiberian Wars is the best gameplay-wise. It just it does not get better. Yeah, there's plenty of legitimate reasons people don't like that game, but I think that just objectively, it shows that it is the most modern game in the way it plays. Looking at some of the individual levels, I think my favourites were probably a high-ranking one is that very first Allied level, where Tanya kind of swims out into the water and just destroys those ships. That's a very new mechanic, and it was a nice set piece there, having the Statue of Liberty blown up. There were some great Soviet ones as well. I think Soviet level 3, that was a good one there with the mind control. That had a massive pitch battle at the end of it. City of Lights, that one in Paris, that was good fun. It didn't quite work. Somebody kind of explained the way it was supposed to be played, and that didn't, it wasn't very intuitive to me. But even still, that was a fun level. I really liked the one where I had to assassinate President Dugan. That was a really... Well, do you even assassinate him? No, I think you just mind control him. That was a really fun level. It's really unfortunate that I was just a blind and I missed the power plants and didn't do it correctly. Because up until the point where I screwed everything up, it was going great. How many times can I say that throughout all my Command & Conquer videos? In terms of challenge, I thought the game was really well balanced, very manageable. As a first-time player going through the game, yeah, I'm familiar with Command & Conquer in general. That probably gave me a leg up, at least in the early levels. But yeah, it wasn't until round about the halfway point where I had my first loss, where out of nowhere, just a surprise attack took care of the objective I was supposed to be defending at like the 11th hour. And that was nonsense. But yeah, I think it was the final levels of both campaigns. That's when I really kind of hit the challenge, as it should be. You know, you should get through most of the story, I think. And yeah, you might make mistakes, but the game gives you the opportunity to recover from them, so you're not going to be a flawless playthrough right from the get-go. It's not so easy that you can just kind of breeze, steamroll everything. But yeah, the 11th Soviet level was the hardest one in their campaign. The finale was comparatively easy, made it through first time, and I wasn't even playing very well. For the Allies, I'm trying to think, what was their penultimate level? Couldn't even tell you now. It's completely slipped my mind. I do remember, though, the finale, attacking the Kremlin as the Allies. That has to be the hardest level for me. I think perhaps I'm giving myself, or giving that level an unfair reputation there, because what I was trying to do was destroy the nuclear missile before it even fired, and that wasn't essential at all. It's quite possible that taking that first hit and waiting 20 minutes or getting a spy down, you know, to delay it would have been a better way of going through that level more methodically. I also saw, I've been following a couple of videos as I've been playing through that have been showing off a lot of the tips. I'll link them in the description. In fact, I should give a name drop for the guy who made them. He has a ton of Red Alert 2 content, so if you're watching me, you've almost certainly watched his content. But yeah, I actually forgot to watch the final level of the Allied campaign, and when I realized that after the fact, I was like, god damn it, because if there was hidden mission logic in that, I've gone through the whole game showing it off wherever I knew about it, and I've potentially blown it. As it happened, the only things that he included in his videos was 2 vulnerabilities in the Soviet base, not kind of specific mission logic. So I'm quite glad I didn't see that, because that would have made that final level much easier, and I wouldn't have had that challenge to overcome, because beating that level the way I did, I really felt like I had devastated the Soviet forces. Like, it was a complete walkover of a really challenging opponent. It wasn't like an easy victory by any means. It took, I think, 4 attempts to get that winning run. And when it all came together, it was just perfect. I loved it. And seeing the vulnerabilities that you can take care of the power on the far eastern flank, which has no defenses whatsoever, and then use a Chrono Legionnaire, which I'll get to. That's another point I want to talk about, to kind of pitch up at the bottom of the edge of the map and take care of the remaining power, just to completely nullify defenses and timers and what have you. That would have robbed, knowing that in advance would have robbed that level of its challenge. All the levels, when you think about it, have exploits that you can take advantage of. Somebody told me one, the Soviet level 11, if you just build nothing, the AI unit doesn't even respond. So you can just use your starting force to just steamroll or waltz straight up to the final objective and just destroy it, like out of hand, and you can complete the level in a few minutes. Or the time it takes for your Kirovs to get to the bottom left corner to the top right one. So it's, when you know things like that, it's very different, and so I'm quite glad that I did actually forget to watch that finale of the video that I've been following. Going back to the Chrono Legionnaire there, I'm well aware that I did that unit a disservice. It was obviously one of the more famous ones that I knew about in advance, that is, popular enough within the fandom that even if you played not Red Alert 2 but the other games, you've heard other people mention it. So I kind of knew vaguely how it worked. I think perhaps I knew it teleported, but didn't quite understand the way it damaged or killed people. I think I was under the impression it was like pretty much a one-hit kill, thinking like Ghost Stalker with his railgun, but not the whole, it erases people from time, and it's like insta-kill against buildings and everything, or not instant, one hit, but that one hit can take time to charge, and the amount of teleporting he's done beforehand to get there is going to all have an impact. So there's a lot of mechanics going on in that unit. It's quite a smart thing that a more experienced player could take advantage of, definitely. And I think I built one of them, and I immediately teleported him to an almost instant death. So yeah, sorry about that, Chrono Legionnaire fans, because I knew as soon as it happened, I was like, I haven't got the time to build another one, and that was like a complete fail at showing off what I'm sure is a favourite of a lot of people. The Mirage tanks, I initially had a bad reaction to them because I didn't quite recognise how or what they were doing. I thought they were just firing cannons, but they have a kind of almost like a laser type weapon, which is more unique than compared to like the Grizzlies and Rhinos, which I originally kind of lumped them in with. The tree mechanic, kind of gimmicky. People were saying that it just completely breaks the AI. It was difficult to even see that happening because they were so powerful that they were just destroying the AI as soon as they got into range. So I wasn't really noticing the lack of return fire that was coming towards them. Perhaps they were getting a lot of return fire, but they were just getting, the Soviets were getting destroyed too quickly for it to really have an effect. That unit might as well have been, what was that cut? Yeah, back in the original Tiberian Dawn, there was a unit called the Microwave Tank, which was cut before release, and it was supposed to be like a nod unit. They could have just, repurposed that idea. The tree idea, maybe in multiplayer games, it's more surprising, like suddenly to have a whole forest turn on you. But when you're only playing against the computer, you're doubtful or you're unsure of how much it's even fooling them, kind of thing. But what else I've got to talk about? The Kirovs, I don't know, they were very slow. I could only compare them to planetary assault carriers and Tiberian Wars, of which I prefer the latter. Kirovs is probably the ultimate meme unit in Red Alert 2, and they weren't bad by any means. They were a very strong and powerful unit that I probably didn't make the most of. I think my favourite, and I've been putting it to last, was the Prism Tank, which I think I've got to say is probably my favourite unit in any Command & Conquer ever. Visually, it is really impressive, even if it did no damage at all. The beam it fires and the way that beam splits on landing is visually eye-catching. You can see the damage being done, not just in the health bars, but like it actually looks like something very powerful is being fired. The extra mechanics of the closer you are to the target you're firing at, the more damage it does to other things, kind of as it kind of arcs off that unit into other surrounding Soviet units. I couldn't even tell you whether the Prism tanks link up their shots in the same way the Prism towers do. I think they were just so powerful that, like, with or without that effect, they were just absolutely devastating everything. I think primarily they were like anti-building and anti-infantry, but they were like just destroying the tanks as well. Yeah, really, really good unit. My favorite. And another one that's got to be right up there is the Rocketeers as well. Those two working hand in hand. I guess the Allies have to be my favorite faction then, because the Prism tanks and the Mirage and the Rocketeers too, they were all really good. I quite liked the way the Allied Navy worked in theory. The destroyers with their Ospreys mounted on them. In actual gameplay it didn't quite work as well because they were difficult to, or you had to kind of limit the way you used them so that your helicopters could actually land and rearm. The Soviet Apocalypse tanks didn't really do much for me. They were just a mammoth tank essentially, and I couldn't. They didn't have as much character to them, I'd say. Things like the Terror Drone were quite unique, but didn't feel quite as drawn to the Soviet arsenal as I did the Allied side of things. A final note I'd say is just the superpowers were almost comically underpowered. Chronosphere I didn't make use of, and the reason I didn't is because I'm so used to the Chronosphere being a laughably pointless waste of time from Red Alert 1 that it didn't even occur to me that this Chronosphere might actually have a legitimate reason to build it. So I think I put one down in the campaign, but purely as the objective. Like I had to build one, and then I don't think I even used it in that mission because I'm so used to it teleporting one pointlessly weak Allied unit for 30 seconds and then it popping back randomly to wherever it was before. Actually trying to use it like a wormhole, like the Skrin wormhole from Tiberium Wars, didn't occur to me. The weather device was really cool, the way it changed the time of day as well. That was a cool extra feature. It made it difficult to see where the damage was being done. So what's up next then? Well, people have been asking me about Unity's Revenge for quite a while. I'm absolutely going to play it, and probably quite soon. The question of how soon though is down to you guys, because technically there is more Red Alert 2 vanilla content that we didn't touch on. My understanding is there's 5 co-op campaigns in Red Alert 2, which I couldn't see how to play from the base install, but I'm thinking maybe through CNCnet or a program like it, it's still possible to do those. Am I wrong in that? And if it is, would you guys like to see that? What I'm thinking, it would be quite cool. A lot of you had a real direct impact on the way I was playing, and I think it would be quite good to give something back to you and team up with some of you and play some of those maps. My understanding is they're just skirmish maps and there's nothing special about them. Like there's no preset defenses and missions. It's just like, okay, you're in this area, wipe them out. And it's not something to dedicate a ton of time to, but I think I'd quite like to, it'd be fun to link up with some of you guys and do some skirmish maps together. I think there's maybe a little bit of story tied to it in the missions and briefings. I don't know. We'll see. The question is, what would you prefer? Would you prefer some of that content? I think I could just do like some highlights of that rather than necessarily dedicate another 25 videos to them. Probably just pick 5 people, one for each mini campaign, and then just go through them as quick as possible, see all the content, and show off some of the things which I never even showed in the tech tree, like some of the stolen technology. I got one of the 4 of them in the last Allied level and didn't even realize it. I thought it was just the same Psi trooper that we got all the way back in Soviet level 3 and throughout the Soviet campaign. I didn't realize the Psi commando was something unique that we had not seen before, so I didn't even build it. And then there's 3 others as well. There's Yuri Prime, there's the Chrono Commando, and there's the Chrono Ivan, I think. And yeah, I can try and feature some of those in some of the co-op levels if you guys want to see that. Perhaps you'd all just prefer I went straight into Unity's Revenge. if that's the case, then that's what I'll do. We'll just forget the co-op campaigns. But if you are interested, leave me a comment, and if I know your name, as I do, I've learned several of your names throughout all the comments you've left. I will ask you, if you've got a preference as to which of the 5 co-op campaigns to do, and then we can find a time, and the two of us can play them. I think there's more even in Yuri's Revenge. I think there's another 3, 1 for each of the factions. And so we can do the same thing again once we get to that point. I think there's other things in the like gap generators. I don't think I ever built one. In the original Red Alert 1, they did nothing against the AI, so there was no reason ever to build one. But perhaps it's different in Red Alert 2. But other things like that, and some of the superpowers as well, I never made use of. I don't think I ever built the weather device myself. And I did build a chronosphere, but never used it. And I don't think I ever built an Iron Curtain. So yeah, we can try and incorporate some of that. Think of novel strategies to do. One of my favorites I saw was get a amphibious APC, which can hold, I think, 6 flak tracks, which can in turn hold 30, between all of them, infantry. And so have 1 or 5 amphibious APCs pull up outside a base, make a beach landing, and then 150 conscripts all unload at once or something like that, with some 30 odd flak tracks or however many it is. I think just doing silly things like that, but also not dedicating too much time to the co-op campaigns could be quite fun, just to make a few highlight reels, maybe 1 for each campaign. Let me know what you think. Either way, thanks very much for watching. This has been a much longer, ramblier video than I intended. On Audacity now we're over 30 minutes. I don't know what it'll be after I trim it down. Thanks again, and regardless of what it is, I hope you will join me soon for another video. Oh, and I forgot to mention, thank you everyone for 700 subscribers. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate all your continued views and comments.